What's up, everyone? This is Jeff again with online Cubase tutorials. We're still working on our song and talking about organization. In the last track we created, or in the last screencast, we created a group track called drums, and we routed all the sounds of the drums into there. And I have these parts muted still for the snare and the percussion, but this is sounding way better, sounding more legit. So let's see what would happen if we turn the snare on. It sounded pretty cool. Not sold on this percussion sound yet. Let's just see about changing the sound. Well, we don't have to deal with this now. We'll pick a new sound later. What I want to do is we'll just leave that muted for now, and we'll collapse the groove agent. Maybe we'll find another sample that we like better in the second kit in a little bit here, but I want to actually get a bass in here, because without bass it's really hard to get inspired just with a single measure of drum track. So I'm gonna try to find one in the built-in Retrolog that comes with, actually does it, I think Retrolog SE comes with it. I'm not sure if I bought it or not. I was trying to stick to the built-in stuff. Retrolog is a pretty good virtual synthesizer, and you can see again, just go pick a category, synth bass, and I'm going to target this track with my MIDI controller, and so I'm just hitting some notes down on the low end here. This right here is playing the init patch, which is just like a big fat saw wave. So you can just click on here, it loads these sounds up. It sounds kind of distorted. Let's just start with a basic saw. I know it seems a little boring right now, but just stick with me. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and draw a one measure bass line. And here's where we can talk about the metronome. So the metronome's found down here, and I'm going to play along with this. I'm a piano player. You can, feel free to click in parts in here with the pencil tool if you want. If you're not a piano player, you don't have a MIDI input device, you can also use the on-screen keyboard if you don't even have a MIDI device. I forget exactly how you find it, but you can Google it. It's just called on-screen keyboard, and it lets you put maybe it's under MIDI. Just lets you turn on and use your keyboard as keyboard, your QWERTY keyboard for your computer for typing a letter. It lets you use that to enter notes. It's like pressing the keys on your regular keyboard. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to be playing along with this in here, along with the metronome. So you can see the settings for the metronome is you can use the click, you can count in for 1 bar. What that means is if you have this and you go to record, you click, you got to go to the channel, you hit record. This right here, you want to leave that off for MIDI tracks, and you'll see you actually don't even need to have a part here. Cubase will create a part automatically. So, and the other thing we can talk about is record modes is down here. So you can, when you're playing a loop, you can play it and then hit record, and it'll instantly start recording. Now it's recording like a part, another part, another part, and so these control if it's going to merge parts, if it's going to replace the last one that you did, or I usually do stacked, so that it creates all sorts of different parts. You can decide if you're a good player, you can turn off auto quantize and you'll get a really good groove. But I usually play with auto quantize on, and it's going to make new parts. So as long as you don't do anything, like it didn't really create any part. If I stop it and start it again, there's nothing there. So it only records a part if you actually play something during that loop. So now the countdown, if you use the count in for click during count in for 1 bar, then when you hit record, you'll get 4 counts. Okay, now see if I stop. Interesting. So what happened was it looks like it started before the beat, and I played too low. So I'm going to hit the, I'm going to hit the delete key on this. We're going to start again. I'm going to also octave up on my MIDI controller. All right, so I'm going to try that again. I'm going to hit 4 bars. Okay, so now if I hit stop on that, you're going to see a bunch of diagonal lines. So what that means is you have parts stacked on top of each other. Now you can see that there's 3 parts there that I just did. And if I were to slice this right here, this note breaks off in half right there. I don't know if you saw that. If I undo that, you can see I started this note way too early. So the note comes on here. You can see the same thing down here. The note comes on before this event. If I cut it, you see where the bar line is here on bar 9, and this note that I played comes in before the bar. So if I cut this right here, the note's gone. It looks like it's gone, right? Because the actually event is in this event. The note on happened there, and you can see now this note extends into the next bar. So that's one thing to be aware of. Is sometimes it can seem like your stuff disappears, but it actually usually just means that it went to the prior event. So usually what you want to do is you want to edit this so that this note starts right on the bar, and then when you slice this part, it'll be accurate. It'll be the notes that you actually played. And again, I usually edit the volume, but in a sound like this where the sound radically changes depending on the velocity, I'm just going to leave it how I played it. So now that we have this part separated out, we can listen to what we have. And that's where you'd want to monitor. I thought. So why are we not hearing that? Sometimes this happens. I find if I do not connect it and then back to the MIDI device, it fixes it. Oh, is something muted? It looks like something's muted. See this yellow M? Oh yeah, our drum parts are muted. So, what in the heck? I'm not sure why I'm not hearing that when it plays back. That's really weird. I'm drawing a blank why that would be happening. We could try to activate outputs, see if that helps. Retrolog stereo. I guess this only has one output. And that one output is right here. And it's set to the stereo out. Oh, I know what it is. So you can see that there's a info bar across the top for every time you select something, and this part is muted, and that's how you turn it on and off. And the reason why that happened is because when you record in this mode, new parts stacked, others are muted. So the way that it stacks is it'll keep the last part you played, but then every other part underneath that part, so to speak, is muted. So it's one of those things where I forget and then I remember. So that's how that's solved. Okay, so now what's cool about this is once you limit this down to, let me turn this down. Once you have a basic beat for one measure, you can really start to have fun with it in the editor and playback. So for example, hear the difference in that just by changing the velocity of one note, and it sounds a lot different. Okay, so we've already got a pretty cool bass. And then another example with the small changes is just change the note length. Now I've got this bar line on here. This is one example where you can turn the snap off. You can also zoom this up, right? So you can control what you're seeing here. You can make this easier to see. All right, and you get the notes there. And then the color of it represents how hard it's hitting. Now with the if I turn snap off, you can get really granular with where these start and stop. And snap is on inside of here as well. So I'm going to leave this one on for the parts themselves, and then for the notes you can turn snap off. Because electronic music is so repetitive, you kind of get a feel for it, and the feel can be different just by tweaking some of the simple parameters. All right, so you can see we already have like something that sounds pretty cool to work with. So I'm going to delete all that, and this is take one retrolog. So let's just call this bass. It's the retrolog MIDI channel. That helps to know that. But notice here there's a folder for this. Let's just go ahead and organize the MIDI part right by the sound. So notice you can mute either one of these. It's a little different. This is muting the MIDI, so it's not triggering the sound. This is muting the sound, so even though the MIDI is being triggered, the sound channel for it is off. Okay, now here's some other cool stuff. Is notice in this panel over here in your rack, you have instant access to mess with this. So for example, so that's the filter cutoff frequency, resonance, distortion, filter envelope, DCF, decay. I don't even know what these are, but that's the attack of the note. So making it it's like the note fades in instead of it hits right on the beat. Usually basses come right in. I mean, look how much different creative control you have just with this, and you can animate and automate all of these dial movements. All you have to do is hit read, record, automation, and write. So we'll get into that later. So this is already sounding pretty cool, and what makes this interesting for me as a composer is I can instantly come in here now, and I can come back and I'm just going to drag, essentially what I'm going to do is just make this as like the first one. So I'm going to put this all the way back, and now notice if I drag this part and it just moves it. If I drag it and I hold the Option key, you get a plus sign, the Alt key on Windows. So now I just copied that part. and I can copy these parts as well, same way. So in this case, I'm gonna hold, I think it's Alt Shift. I don't know. I don't know if that works that way. Basically, what I'm trying to do is make the difference between an alias part and a regular part. I don't know. Essentially, it's the same idea if I do this. So you get those little equal signs. It's like this part equals that part. It's the same part. So with this one, it's a copy of it. So you can change this one. This one will remain the same. An alias part is change this one. It also changes that one. But super simple way just to make a 4-bar intro is just to take all of this, whoops, and copy this for 4 bars. And now we have just the bass and the hat. All right, and so I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to follow my best practices, go with the next color here. Whoops. There we go. All right, and it's got its own sound channel, and it's going to the stereo output. So again, go in here, add a new group track, and call this bass. And we might have a different bass or a couple different bass sounds. Usually there's just one main bass sound and then you add another one. But in this case, I want the bass. Actually, while we're talking about it, let's make another group channel for the main mix. Final is a good word. This is going to be the final mix that's going to get routed to the stereo output. So this is actually what I like to make the 16. And then the bass and the drums are going to be color 15. We can leave this color 15 here. But group tracks here. So now the drums is going to go to final. The bass is going to go to final. And final is going to stereo out. And then we can put on the final, you can go in here into, you edit this channel. There's a couple ways to do it, actually. But you can put an insert on here, or you can put an insert on the, you click edit and it brings up the whole channel editor in a bigger window so you can mess around with it. So what we want to do is we're going to put a VST dynamics. It's basically a gate, compressor, and limiter just with the default settings. Like you can actually come in here and just put let's see, isolate, no, like pumping drums. I'll just start with that one. Actually, that's probably not what I meant to do. Is it yeah, just put yeah, we'll leave it. We'll see how it does with this settings. We can always fiddle with the settings, but I'm turning on everything there and putting that on final, leaving that at 0 dB. This is just one good way while you're working to make sure that your speakers never get blown out or for too much distortion, because now you, in your previous bus going right before the stereo out, you have a compressor limiter. So I'm going to save that, save where we're at, and then this track is shaping up pretty good. But just to finish up this particular screencast, I'm going to continue copying the bass out here for the next 4 measures, and I'm going to also add in the drums, the kick drum for 4, and then the hat for 4. Okay, so now what we have is a pretty cool intro. So what's interesting is that you basically can't hear the drums because I put this on here. So let me take that off. And just for now, the main thing I was thinking was to just have a brick wall limiter so we don't blow out our speakers. And you can leave that like -3. And that's on the final channel. So now you should be able to hear it better. All right, so now there's not a lot of interest in the bass yet, but essentially all I'm going to do is, you know, like for the second part, make, you know, some changes to it. And just, you know, call that the second one. The third one, maybe just a couple more changes. Make this one shorter or longer, and make this one a little less. You know, just to give it some variety. And the fourth one, and we'll you know, we can always tweak these later, but all right, so now we have 4 different versions of that, and then I'm going to actually delete these 4 and replace it with these 4 that I changed around. And I think actually, now that I think about it, let me change this one, move that up to a G. I'm going to snap that to the high G and call that good. And that's a decent 4-bar phrase that I now want to copy as an instance. So now this has this as a instance. So if I change this one, the changes are reflected in this one to kind of keep it repetitive, but also unique at the same time. So now we have, we're getting into arranging here, but now we have 4 bars leading into another 4 bars with the kick. And then we're ready to loop on bar 9 and start adding another part. So in the next video, let's add on to this. We'll start adding some synthesizer parts and get some syncopation going. Maybe add a hi-hat open to make this a little bit more housey. And we'll see where it takes it from. We'll see where the ideas take us from there. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.